Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today at SFT Live. It's actually our 11th episode today, and before we start I wanted to make a quick announcement that our SFT Live program has episodes in both English and Tibetan language, and for those that are interested in watching our Tibetan language program, they are on our Facebook page. So we have the Tibetan language programs available for those that prefer the Tibetan language episodes, and those are available on Facebook. And so for our episode today here on Instagram, we will be doing some interviews and performances from our guests that will be all done in English language. And I also want to start today with a quote from someone who I'm sure all of us know, His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. And the quote is, pause the music. "The impact of climate change in Tibet is harsh. As the world focuses on climate action at the United Nations COP21 meetings, Tibet should be central to any progress made. The Tibetan Plateau needs protecting, not just for Tibetans, but for the environmental health and sustainability of the entire world. As stewards of their own land, Tibetans' expertise should be part of tackling climate change." So in case you're just joining, that was a beautiful quote from His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. And the reason why I think I really liked that quote a lot is because it discusses about the importance of frontline communities and their voices being heard at these major climate forums where decisions are being made about climate change and about the world. And many folks, such as Tibetans and nomads living inside Tibet, don't always have the opportunity to share their own expertise and share their own views on climate change. So that was a beautiful quote by His Holiness to start off our episode. And again, as I always mention, we hope that here at SFT, we hope that our SFT Live episodes are an engaging way for folks staying home to learn about different topics, but also to find ways that they can take meaningful action for really important issues such as human rights or the Tibetan movement or climate change from the safety of their homes. So again, I hope everyone's in quarantine, and we hope that we can flatten the curve and help reduce the risk of coronavirus for any of the vulnerable communities. So thank you for joining us, and without further ado, our first artist is Tenzin Lhasam, and she is a Swiss-based Tibetan artist who is both a singer and songwriter. And I'm going to just invite her up to our live, actually. Some of Lhanzom actually has two singles that are released, which are Young and Beautiful and Nowhere. Those are actually available on Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon Music as well. Hey, Lhanzom, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I was just introducing you, actually. I was saying about your new singles that you have available. Her songs are also available on YouTube as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
That's
so
correct.
Do you want to introduce yourself before we get started today?
Yeah, well, like you said, my name is Lhanzom. I'm 26. I always want to say I'm 25. And I'm from Switzerland, exactly. And I'm really happy to be here. And thank you for having me, yeah.
Yeah, actually, I know we were discussing about it, but some of our viewers might not know. It seems like you're outside right now. Do you want to share what you're doing?
Of course. This is the result of my organizational talent. I'm right now shooting my next music video with my friends, and so that's why I'm here outside. But yeah, so that's awesome. The reason. Yeah, I can't tell you more. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So Lhanzom is working on a new music video that everyone should check out when it comes out. Do you want to just kick us off by showing us a little bit of your vocals before we start with the interview?
Yeah, of course. I can sing the song like the latest release I did, a song called Nowhere. So it's I know it, that we're not good together, and you know it, but it won't make it better. But we can't keep our hands off each other, and we're stuck in the middle of nowhere.
Thank you.
That was just
beautiful.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I was going to kick off the program today with a couple questions for you.
Yeah, right.
The first question I had was, I know that you're both a singer and a songwriter, and music has played like a big role in your life. So I was just wondering, and I was curious, how did music first start becoming kind of a part of your life, and where did your interest for music first come from?
So, good question. I mean, since I was a child, I always loved music. I always loved to dance. I love to sing, whether it was at home or at school, and yeah, at school as well. I always like was took part of like the musical activities, like joining the choir or playing in the theater and playing roles in musicals. I always liked that. I always loved it. So, but when you ask me about like my first interest, like in writing songs or like to be a singer-songwriter, I think that was in my teens, like when I was a teenager. When I first like listened to Taylor Swift, she was like my huge idol. She still is an amazing woman, amazing musician and songwriter, and I still look up to her. So I think that was when I was about like 13, 14 years old.
Okay, cool. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And we also mentioned how you are Tibetan and you are currently living in Swiss and you grew up in Swiss as well, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So how was that experience for you, being a Tibetan, with a Tibetan household and growing up in a Western country like Switzerland? Like, what was that experience like for you?
So for me, I mean, I always felt home in Switzerland. I still feel home in Switzerland, and I was really lucky, like to have grown up in a city where we had like a huge Tibetan community, and so I was always like in contact with the Tibetan culture, with the Tibetan language. I mean, we had Tibetan school and we had Tibetan dance classes, and I always loved that. So. That's why I was always in contact with the Tibetan heritage and culture. So I was really lucky. But on the other hand, like you said, I grew up like here in Switzerland, so I was always also in contact with the Western culture. Like I mean, I went to Swiss schools, I had Swiss friends, so I noticed some differences when I was a kid, of course. But I think now when I'm growing older, I just try like to take the best of both worlds. Like
Yeah, absolutely. I think like for any Tibetan growing up in exile, there's definitely a balancing act between
exactly
two different worlds that you live in. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. And actually, it seems like some folks were saying they missed the singing, so they want to hear another song. So,
yeah.
do you want to just jump into another song, maybe?
Of course, I can like with a cappella, with the guitar, you mean, or?
Yeah. Do you want to just do one of the guitar songs, like a full song?
Yes, of course. Okay, all right. I will just.
Awesome.
My friend is gonna hold the camera. I will just switch it.
Sure thing.
So. I hope you can see me. So I'm gonna. That's fine. So I'm gonna hold. I'm gonna play a song called "Real Thing." Sitting nervous on the train. I can't wait to reach the city you live in. I wanna see your face, with curly hair tied up, and dive into your eyes. The street lights are turning on. It's getting dark outside. We're lighting up inside. I'm with you this whole time. Two bodies making love the whole night. But I can't stop. Missing our late night talking. Now early morning loving, boy, yeah. And I won't forget how you used to pick me up and kiss me right away in front of everyone, yeah. And I just can't stop thinking about how you make me feel. Thought it was a real thing, boy. Oh, hope you can hear me.
Maybe if you can go a little closer.
Over. Suddenly it was over, and I was not prepared. It shouldn't sound sad or empty. I try to make it more passionate and lively, 'cause that's how we were. The warm summer nights came to an end. You left as soon as it began. Believe me, I do understand. Oh, I do understand. But I can't stop. Missing out with late night talking. And now early morning loving, boy, yeah. And I won't forget how you used to pick me up and kiss me right away in front of everyone, yeah. And I just can't stop thinking about how you make me feel, yeah, yeah. Oh, no, no. And I just can't stop, boy. I just can't stop, no. Listen now, we're late night talking, no, no, no. And I won't forget, boy. I won't forget how you used to pick me up, pick me up. And I just can't stop. Ooh, ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I just can't stop thinking about how you make me feel. I thought it was a real thing, boy. So I
I think the audience was loving it.
would
Yeah, you
just
got a
switch.
ton
I'm
of.
sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
Because I have nothing here, like to put my smartphone on. My friend was helping me out and holding my camera.
Yeah, for sure.
I hope that's what.
You
I
have
hope
to
it was fine. I
improvise.
hope you heard me.
No, yeah, we could hear you. And I think when they moved a little closer, it was even better. The sound, yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was really beautiful. Is that a song that you wrote yourself?
Yes, yeah, exactly. But I
What is it
didn't
called?
release that song yet. It's called Real Thing, and I
Mm.
have a YouTube video of it. Actually, it's quite funny because I'm also sitting on a bench in this video, so it's quite similar, like right now. You can check it out on YouTube if you want to.
Yeah, so for folks who didn't catch that, you can check out this song that she just sang on YouTube. It's called The Real Thing, and it's actually not released yet on the other
Exactly, it's
platforms.
not released yet.
So
Yeah.
really awesome and exciting to have that song. Um, anyway, so I just also wanted to chat a little bit about the climate crisis in Tibet and about Earth Day. So
Yes,
I think
exactly.
you might be aware, and many of our viewers might be aware, that actually, as of today, there's 3 days left until Earth Day. And
Mm-hmm.
this year is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day since they've started celebrating Earth Day. And
All
Earth
right.
Day is
Yeah.
really like a day, where you can celebrate the Earth. And in recent years, it's also become a moment where young people and activists can, take charge of the climate movement and do strikes and demand for like good climate action from
Yeah.
world leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So this year for Earth Day, there's going to be like a digital strike going on this coming Wednesday, which is April 22nd. And so the question I had for you today was, with the climate movement in the past few years, we have all seen such an amazing role of young people and youth leaders like Autumn and Greta Thunberg and so many others, amazing youth leaders. What have been some of your thoughts and feelings and reflections as a young person, as someone a millennial growing up? Like, what have been some of your thoughts on the youth movement for climate awareness and climate action in recent years?
Yeah. So um, I think it's really cool and really amazing, like to see that the young people have that they have a voice, and that they get the attention, and that they start to spread awareness about these topics. I mean, the first thing to do is to spread awareness, I think, and I mean after that, all the following steps will lead to take action. So I think that's important, and I think it's amazing, and I also like see it already like in my younger sister. I mean, she's only 5 years younger than me, but way more conscious and way more aware of all these topics. And I think it's cool, like how she comes to me and like teaches me, like, hey, you could do that, you could do this. There are many possibilities to help out. And yeah, I really admire that. I think it's cool.
That's great to hear that you were inspired by your younger sister to be even more
definitely
climate conscious. I think, yeah, I mean, I've also noticed like such a big shift in society amongst young people today, like those that were, born after 2000, like for them, it's really do or die. More so, they have a mindset where they're all like on the same page. And I think that more and more we need to get folks that are even older, like adults and those that are, in political power in different countries. They need to be on the same page as young people, as people from our generation and even younger. But so the next question that I had for you was, more than just climate change around the world, there's also a particular topic that we were focusing on today with this episode, which is the Tibet climate crisis. And I guess I was just curious, have you heard of the Tibet climate crisis before?
Yeah, I mean, of course I heard of it. And I think like the one thing that pops up in my mind right now is that I think I read it somewhere or I watched it in the documentary, I'm not sure, but it's just about like it was surprising me, even though it shouldn't surprise me. But I mean, many like rivers and waters, they are the source of all of it. They come from the Tibetan plateau, so that means there are so many people are affected, and that's what you like said in the beginning in the quote of Gundu, like that it's not only about the Tibetan people, it's about actually everyone, I mean, this what happens in Tibet with the climate that can affect so many people. So I think it's, of course, worth it to like take a look there and like help out and take action.
Yeah, I think that's such an important message. It's like when you shared that, like what comes to my mind is like about interconnectedness. Because you're talking about like these riverways in all of these countries that are downstream, and it really shows that in the world that we live in today, we don't have the luxury of saying my climate and your climate. We all live on one earth, and in order for us to survive, really, past a certain point, we all need to come together and start taking action.
Yeah,
that actually also reminds me of a quote that you may have, many of our viewers might have heard. We have a Tibet climate crisis pledge that we've been doing, and on the pledge, people that sign the pledge can actually write a message for the rest of the world. And there was actually a couple quotes that come to mind when I talk about interconnectedness that I just wanted to share with folks.
Yeah.
So one was that now is the time for our world to strive for social and environmental justice for all people. Tibetan human rights and the beautiful nature surrounding Tibet must be protected. And that was from Justin in Boone, North Carolina, who signed the pledge. And another one that was really nice that I liked, there was two more that were really nice, was let's work together to tackle the climate crisis. It starts from me, you, and from all of us. It's our responsibility, and we must start. And for me, primarily, that's by signing this pledge. So that was from Vincent from Paris.
Yeah.
And the last one was just really short and simple. We are all in this together. And that was from our signatory Tenzin from Ngari, Tibet. So you can see this pledge has, been taken all around the world. And a lot of people, especially young people, have been, adding their thoughts and their voices to the pledge. So we'll be reading more of the pledges later as well. But it seems like we could go for another song maybe, and then after that we have one more question for our guest, and then we're going to move on to we have another speaker coming as well. So while Lhanzom's transitioning, I'll just share a little bit about who the next speakers are. So we have two other really awesome speakers today. I'll put the poster up. And sorry, I think my face is blocking some of them, but Tenzin Mariko is one of our next speakers, and she's a public figure, dancer, and well-known, leader in our Tibetan community. And we also have Serene Fox, who is an artist and activist from Toronto, who's going to be joining us as well. So those are the two of the guest speakers we have coming, and we have another song from Lhanzom La.
Yes. So I'm soon ready. So the song I'm gonna sing now is called Nowhere, but I'm just gonna like do the first verse and the chorus. This single, I just released the single in February, so you can check it out on Apple Music, Spotify, and my boyfriend and I, we made a really cool music video, so you can check this one out on YouTube. It's actually the link in my bio, so yeah, I hope you like it. got what I want. I think I'll maybe still a little bit hurt. Don't know when you'll not be mine. Last week I called you in the middle of the night just to tell you how I feel. I want you to tell me something. Please just tell me something. 'Cause I know it. That we're not good together, and you know it. But it won't make it better, 'cause we can't keep our hands off each other, and we're stuck in the middle of nowhere.
Thank you.
I hope. Was it better with the sound? I don't know.
Yeah, the sound was good. I think the
Okay.
when you come a little bit closer, the microphone picks up all the audio from.
I'm
the
so sorry.
guitar.
You can hear the train in the background and everything. So
It's okay. We get a sneak peek of the location for your next music video.
yeah, that's just like the breaking, like the break, to take a break location. So, but yeah, kind of a sneak peek. You're right.
Awesome. So the last question that I had for you today was about the Tibet climate crisis again. It is SFT and young people. I read some quotes earlier from our pledge.
Yeah,
and
right.
we're asking if you would like to sign and join our Tibet climate crisis pledge.
I would like to, yeah, of course.
Awesome. Thank you. So for those of you that are watching, the climate crisis pledge is just really simple. It's 3 things. It means that you will first pledge to educate yourself and others about the Tibet climate crisis. And then the second thing you're pledging to do is to raise awareness and raise the platform for the climate crisis. So whether you're having dinner with your family or you're in a classroom and the topic of climate change comes up, you will always take the opportunity to teach others and share awareness about the Tibet climate crisis inside Tibet right now. And the third thing that you're pledging to do is to stand in solidarity with Tibetans and other frontline communities. Tibetan nomads and Tibetan climate activists, they are at the front lines of the fight against the Tibet climate crisis. And we're going to be allies by standing in solidarity. So it's really simple. It's educate, raise, and stand in solidarity, ERS. And once you sign the pledge, Lhanzom just, graciously agreed to join our pledge. Then you can post on your story any photo about the Tibet climate crisis, and you can tag 5 friends and challenge them to sign the pledge as well. Yeah. And so we have Lhanzom today who's going to be signing our pledge, which is really exciting.
No, that's cool. Of course, I would like to do that.
Awesome. And did you have any other kind of final message for the folks that are watching from home today?
Simply just that I hope you're all good, and thank you very much for watching, and thank you, Pema and SFT, for having me again. I feel really honored, and yeah, I hope you're all doing good. Have a nice Sunday.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lhanzom.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Awesome. So that was the first guest that we had for our episode of SFT Live today. It was Lhanzom, and you can find her on Instagram and YouTube as well. And we heard some of her new songs that are, not even one of them that's not even been released online except for YouTube. And let me just make sure. So I also wanted to just do a quick transition over. Our next guest that's going to be joining us today is Mariko La. And I'm sure that many of you who are watching today know Mariko because she is very well known in our community. And a quick introduction. So Mariko is a young Tibetan dancer and public figure. And in particular, I think I wanted to share a quick story about my experience with Mariko. When we went on some tour cities together, and I remember when we were in Wisconsin. Hi, Mariko. I remember when we were
Hi,
in
Pima.
Wisconsin.
How are you?
there was a young woman in front of me who was a big fan of Mariko's, and she was, you know, like cheering and screaming, and I was so worried I almost thought I had to call an ambulance because that's how much of an inspiring figure Mariko has been in our community. So I just gave a brief introduction for you, Mariko. Do you also want to introduce yourself briefly as well?
Oh, hi guys. So, my name is Tenzin Mariko. So, yeah, not pretty much. I'm sure, like here, everybody knows me. Except from if you don't know me, I'm an Tibetan artist, and yeah.
Awesome. So, what we were thinking was with Mariko today, since the first step of the pledge is to educate yourself about the Tibet climate crisis, we thought it would be really cool to do a trivia game about the Tibet climate crisis. So for those of you who tuned in for last week's concert with Chimilhamu, it was very cool. We did a trivia and the audience was very helpful. So today we're going to do a trivia with Mariko. So if everyone wants to help out, Mariko I'm sure she would love your help as well. So are you ready to get started, Mariko?
Let's see how good I'll do it.
So the first trivia question for today is, how many rivers do you think originate in Tibet?
Oh.
And so the options are 4, 6, 8, or 10.
8 or 10? I guess.
Sorry?
It was a 10? Is it 10?
Yeah, you would guess 10. That's perfect. Yeah. Yeah, someone guessed 5. That was the correct answer. Good job, Mariko. The answer is 10, actually.
Oh it's quite nervousing, eh?
Yeah, but don't worry. There's a lot of people commenting and giving you help in the comments. You got the right answer, and some of those folks, they guessed 6, 4, 8. So the correct answer is there's actually 10 major rivers in Asia that originate inside Tibet. And that actually means that there are 11 countries that are downstream from Tibet. Awesome. So the next question that I wanted to ask today is, it's kind of a fun one. Which of the following animals are found in Tibet? So I'm going to list 4 animals, and you can guess which one of them are found in, which ones are from Tibet.
Yak.
So I'm gonna list the 4, and then you can say. So the first animal is the yak, and the second animal is Tibetan antelope. The third animal is the blue sheep, and the fourth animal is the blue bear. So which one of these do you think is found?
I think all of it.
All of it. Yeah, that's great. You knew that one so quickly.
Isn't it?
So that's true. So actually, all 4 of those animals are found in Tibet. And on top of that also, except for the blue sheep, all 3 of those animals, the yak, the antelope, and the blue bear, are actually listed on either the endangered animal species list or the vulnerable species list, which means that in the past 50 years or so, because of the changes in the climate and changes in development inside Tibet under Chinese occupation, those animals have become really vulnerable, and many of them are near extinction or threatened by, you know, human development and whatnot, which is really sad to hear. Yeah. So the next question I have is, I'm gonna list 2 different types of Tibetan culture, and you can say which one you think is the oldest. So Tibetan Buddhism and Tibetan nomad culture. Which one do you think is older? Like, do you think Tibetan Buddhism has been around for a longer time, or Tibetan nomad culture? And you could take a guess. You can ask the audience what they think if they know.
Oh, okay. What audience think about it?
Oh, Mariko is calling for a helpline from the audience. Oh, we have a couple people that are taking some guesses.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's nomad culture.
Yeah, so we had a couple guesses for nomad
Because
culture.
everybody's saying nomad definitely.
Yeah, and then we had one guess for Buddhism, but mostly it was for nomad culture. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. So your helpline definitely helped out. There's like two dominant cultures, you know, in Tibet. There's the Buddhist tradition and there's also the nomad culture. And actually, Tibetan Buddhism has been in Tibet for over 1,000 years. But the Tibetan nomad culture has actually been in Tibet for over 4,000 years. So the pastoral way of life, the Tibetan nomadic way of life has been around in Tibet for over 4,000 years. And it's really sad to see that today it's really being threatened by climate change and also by occupation from China. So the next question I have for Mariko today is, we just talked about Tibetan nomad culture and how old it is, and how it's being threatened today.
Huh?
We just talked about how Tibetan nomad culture is being threatened today. How many Tibetan nomads do you think have been forcibly resettled by the Chinese government? So how many Tibetan nomads do you think have been forcibly resettled by the Chinese government? And I'll give you four options that you can guess from. So do you think it's 500,000, 1 million, 2 million, or 3 million?
$500,000?
Okay, so Mariko, I guess 500,000. And the audience, if you want to take a guess as well, that would be
Is it?
Well, let's see what the audience wants to guess. So we said, like, how many Tibetan nomads have been forcibly resettled by the Chinese government? Is it 500,000, 1 million, 2 million, or 3 million?
Everyone is saying 1 million.
Yeah, we have a ton of guesses for 1 million. We have one for 500,000 there too. Tenzin Dashian.
Yeah.
Unyu914 guessed 3 million, and Angie guessed 2 million.
Okay.
Lhasa Pomo guessed 2 million. Kunsa Tenzin said, "Love you, Mariko."
I have no idea about it.
Okay, so that was a great guess, Mariko, but actually it's something that's, I think, hard for many people to even believe. But since China has occupied Tibet, like in recent years, nearly 3 million Tibetan nomads have been forcibly resettled by the Chinese government.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so nearly 3 million Tibetan nomads have been forcibly resettled. And the fact is that Tibetan nomads have, have the longest culture and tradition inside Tibet for over 4,000 years. They're the ones who really protect, the land and the plateau. And even as His Holiness said, Tibetan nomads and Tibetans are the stewards of our own land, which means that they're the ones who have taken care of the plateau for so many years. And so, do you want to do one last question, Mariko?
Yeah, sure.
Are you having fun with the trivia game?
I think so.
Okay.
It's quite tough though.
It is. It's a tough one because we realize that we don't all know so much about the Tibetan climate crisis. How many different types? This is a hard question, so if you don't get it, don't worry at all. How many different types of mineral resources does Tibet have? And I'll give you some options for this one. Does Tibet have 20, 87, 114, or 132 types of mineral resources? So you can guess either 20, 87, 114, or 132. And this is how
I
many
have
types
no
of...
idea about it.
Let's see. So Mariko has no idea. Let's see. Can we have some audience guesses?
87, 140,
140,
132.
114.
I have no idea.
132. So it seems like we had the most guesses for 132. Do you want to lock in your answer with your audience help?
Maybe 132. I'll go with it.
All right. So Mariko's gonna lock in the answer. 132. So Good job. Your audience did a good job to help you. That's true. There are
Thank you.
132 different types of mineral resources inside Tibet. And some of these include copper, gold, iron, ore, aluminum, chromite, lithium, and that's just kind of getting started. The list goes on. And China has known that there is like this rich minerals that lie beneath Tibet's mountains and plains for a long time now, which is actually why the name for Tibet in Chinese language, the Chinese people have called it, is Xizang, which actually translates to Western Treasure House.
Tibet.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's the name, the Western Treasure House. It's referring to, you know, all of the minerals and, you know, the rich minerals that Tibet has inside. But yeah.
Okay. I learned a lot today.
And do you want to do like one last trivia question?
Oh my God. Okay, last one.
Okay, so last one. This is gonna be a fun one. How many people in Asia do you think rely on Tibet's rivers for?
Mariko's general knowledge is zeroless. I accept that about these things.
I mean, these are things that a lot of Tibetan people and you know, a lot of climate activists don't know about, which is why it's so important to kind of put the issue out there. So the next question is,
yeah, that's true.
how many people in Asia do you think rely on water from Tibet's rivers for water security? And I'm going to list a couple different options and you can pick one. So it's 3.6 million people, 100 million people, 900 million people, or 1.4 billion people. Those are the options. How many people in Asia rely on Tibet's rivers for water security? Do you want to hear the options again?
Yes, please. I think I know this.
Okay, so it's 3.6 million, 100 million, 900 million, and 1.4 billion.
Is it 900 or is it 1.4? Something between these two.
Yeah, it's 1.4 billion people.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes, I did it. This is for that guy who said Mariko have no general knowledge.
So in a winner take all, Mariko has answered the last question correctly. Good job, Marikola. So the proper answer was 1.4 billion, which means that around Asia, there are 1.4 billion people that rely on water from Tibet's rivers. So if Tibet dries, then Asia dies. That's one of the slogans that we've used in our comments. So it is a true, you know, it's a true statement for sure.
Yeah.
So Marikola, thank you so much for playing our Tibet climate crisis trivia with us today. I know that some of the questions were.
It's always fun to work or do something with SFT.
That's so sweet. I know some of the questions were kind of tough, right?
Yeah, but yeah.
But do you feel like you kind of learned like a bit more about the Tibet climate crisis?
I really did, yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I feel like I have one last question for you, Marikola, which is SFT has been doing the Tibet climate crisis pledge, and we have, you know, hundreds of people that have signed the pledge already from dozens of different cities around the world. And I wanted to ask, would you sign our, would you join the climate crisis pledge?
Sure. What is it? When is it?
Okay, so great question. The Tibet Climate Crisis Pledge has a couple different, it's very simple. You have to go on SFT's website, and the link is in our bio, and you can sign the pledge. And when you sign the pledge, you are pledging to do three things. It's ERS. So that's educate yourself and others about the Tibet climate crisis, like how we've done today. And R
Uh-huh.
is raise awareness about what's going on. So whether you're, on Instagram or having dinner with your friends, you can raise the issue
Huh.
when you get the chance to talk about the Tibet climate crisis. And the third one is
Huh.
S, stand in solidarity with frontline communities and Tibetan nomads that have been on the front lines of climate change. And once you sign the pledge, you
Okay.
can share on your story and tag 5 friends to take the pledge with you.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. I can do that.
Awesome. And I see that Wangchen
Yeah.
Dolpo also wants to be a part of the Tibet Climate Crisis Pledge. So Wangchen, thank you for tuning in and thank you for commenting. And I hope that you can go to the link in our bio after this concert as well and, join the pledge.
Huh.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was a lot of fun. Thanks for joining our trivia challenge.
So,
And, as like a inspiration
thank you so much
and role
for having
model,
me.
do you have any message that you wanted to share with the community as well that are watching with us?
Oh, I've been saying this like maybe over 100 times now to everyone. Just stay safe, stay home, and nothing really special. Yeah, we got nothing to do these days though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. It was lovely talking to you, Pema.
Thank you.
And I really learned a lot today. Yeah, so thank you guys for coming over. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon, Pema.
Lasso, thank you. Thanks for joining us, love.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. Bye.
So everyone, that was Tenzin Mariko. She was our guest speaker here today for the Tibet Climate Crisis concert. And we actually have another guest speaker here to join us today. Sorry about that. One moment. So our next guest speaker is, her name is Serene Fox, and she is a Indigenous activist as well as a climate activist. And she's from the Botswana First Nation. That's where she was born, just outside of Ontario. And in addition to being an artist, a dancer, and choreographer, Serene is also passionate about empowering Indigenous communities to amplify their voices, especially those of the youth. And I think that one thing in particular that I found really inspiring was when I was watching, one of her speeches that she gave when she was talking about a conversation that she had with some youth from her community and talking about how Indigenous people, like similarly to Tibetan people, have had a relationship with the land that their people live on for, many thousands of years. And so because of that relationship they have, they're able to provide kind of in a way that they can show and amplify the voices and stories of the frontline communities. So that was a little bit of an introduction, and we're really happy to have Sarain with us. And let me just add her to the live today. If you give me one moment, we can listen to a song by Lhasam while we're waiting for the next guest. The song is Young and Beautiful.
I can't sleep thinking of all the words you've told me the last few weeks.
Hi, Sarain. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, I'm so happy to be with you guys. Anin, hello.
Hello, Tashtilik, and we're really happy to have you join us today as well. And for those that were just watching, the song that was just playing in the background was Lhasam, Young and Beautiful, so you should check it out. She was the first artist we had today. And I just gave a brief introduction for you, Sarain, and I was wondering if you want to say any words as well to add in addition to the introduction that I gave for you.
Yeah, so there's a traditional way that I always introduce myself, so I'm gonna do that. Bojo wabanin ango kwen des nikas opposition do dam Anishinaabe kwen dao Bachuanan donjuban ni somadewian. So that's how I say who I am in my language, Anishinaabe.
Awesome. Yeah, we're so happy to have you with us today, actually, because as I asked our previous guest speakers as well, and as we discussed, there's been so much going on in the past few years with, climate activism. And in particular, I think the role of young people and also the role of Indigenous communities has been, such a tremendous part of the movement that's really been built around the world. And Earth Day is 3 days away now, and I know that there will be millions of young people, millions of Indigenous folks and Tibetans that are going to join. So it's a pleasure to have you join us as well.
Oh, Chimigwech, thank you guys.
In Tibetan, you say like Dashidilek, which means like hello.
Dashidilek.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Anin.
And so the first question that I had for you with our little chat today was, in SFT and a lot of other places, they'll use like the term like activation moment, which is kind of like the moment where you realized what purpose you had and what changes you wanted to make in society, and you felt empowered to kind of take the next step. So I wanted to ask, like, did you have an activation moment in your activism and climate justice work in particular?
Oh man, I love this question so much. I think I've been really thinking about it overnight, and I think that you have many of these moments. And so for me, there are like a few key moments along my path that just like really shaped how I wanted to use my voice and how I found my voice. So one of those moments I think is definitely Standing Rock and being on the ground at Standing Rock. But not just being there, I was raised in a really politically active family. So my entire life, I was on the front lines with my mom. So that's really been a part of who I am. But at Standing Rock, it felt like my generation's fight, like the opportunity to raise our voices in a very unique way. And because we were filming Rise, the realization I had was not about my work on the ground. It was about the work that I could have by building a platform, by raising the voices of others. So I really realized that for me, my activism was, yes, going to be on the ground, like boots on the ground, front lines. But I really realized the power and the trust that people give you when they ask you to tell their story. And so to uplift the voices of others became sort of my role within activism, and I really found my place. And I think before then I felt torn. I was like, do I want to be on the front lines? Do I want to be like doing messaging? Do I want to be like painting banners and all of those things? And so I think when you find that spark where you're like, I can really have an impact here. This works for who I am and the skills and the capacity that I have and what I can do within the community. So I think that was a huge aha.
No, that's really interesting, because actually, like in Tibetan community as well, especially in exile, we have a saying that a lot of young people will say, which is, if you're born Tibetan, you're born an activist. Since 1959, every Tibetan is born an activist. And I think that like it really resonates with me, what you were sharing about your story as well.
Yeah. I say that same exact statement, is that I was inherently born into activism because I was born into the struggle and the fight for my people.
Yeah. And also, like, while you were sharing that story, you also mentioned about the Dakota Access Pipeline. And I think that we have a lot of climate activist folks on the live today, but we also have some folks that are newer to climate activism or from other geographical regions. Do you mind just like explaining and like briefly like about the Dakota Access Pipeline and what that was kind of about?
Yeah, absolutely. So shout out to all of the protectors who stood up on the ground against the Dakota Access Pipeline. But it's funny that we're in April, because it's actually the 3-year anniversary from the moment that a woman named LaDonna decided to use her land on the shores of the river and start an encampment with a bunch of young people. So she started a small resistance camp. When I got on the ground, it was 5 protectors. And I actually had a moment, this is in North Dakota, and I had a moment where I was like, oh my gosh, like this is barely a movement. Like, what are we going to be covering here? There's 5 people on the banks of a river. And then I realized when I met them that these are 5 people on the banks of a river who will not back down. And then within a month, they made a call for warriors to come. So they approved a pipeline route that crossed under the river, and they did not have permission, and they chose to change the route from going close to town to go right through the reservation. And so there was a very huge occupation. I will send links to more information. But a really cool thing that just happened 2 days ago is that they actually again revoked the permits. And so there's a small win because they're going to have to go back in for new environmental assessments. So yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a kind of an incredible example and story of resistance and community, and how we should all kind of stand in solidarity with frontline communities. So thank you for sharing that for us here.
Also, it's so funny. I'm like trying to tell you, and I was like, how can I condense this into like a minute and a half when I want to tell you like a million things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So my next question was, when you hosted the series Rise on Vice, which covered the struggle of the indigenous peoples against the Dakota Access Pipeline, as you were just kind of sharing, as you may know, many Tibetans inside Tibet have also resisted Chinese, projects such as damming and other development works that are accelerating climate change in Tibet. And from your journalistic work and from your experience and point of view, like, what are some of the lessons that you've learned during observing the Dakota Access Pipeline that you think possibly, support and help empower and uplift Tibetans and other frontline communities that are fighting for their environment in similar ways as well?
Yeah. So, one of the biggest lessons that I've learned from frontline work in general is that so many of us who are on the front line standing up for our agency, our right to self, but also our right to their lands and to freedom. There's so many reasons why that can provoke us to be angry, to be upset. And you see that sometimes come out on the front lines, and rightfully so. These are tactics that they use against us to try and get us riled up, to get us to react. And I think kindness is the most important weapon, tool that we can bring to the front line. We have to remember why we're fighting, and we have to remember why we stand. And yes, we want to mask up and we want to be warriors, but we need to be warriors of kindness, and we need to be absolutely focused on our goal. And so if the goal is protection, then you never want to be the one person on the front line who causes it to be unsafe for everyone else who's there. So I actually think that self-control and going to the front line and approaching all the work that you do from a real centered place, never from what you're against, but always what you're standing up for. So I think that's something my mom told me growing up, is that activism is not standing against something. Mm-hmm. It's standing up for something. And so reminding yourself, what are you standing up for? Not what you're against. Because it can also cause your spirit to constantly be fighting. And yes, we want to fight. We're activists, but we're standing up. And it changes the way it feels, changes the way we do our work. And I think that that's really impactful. It changes the way that we use our messaging and the message that we put out there. And I always think that it always wins.
That's really beautiful. And I think, as a Tibetan living in exile and working with climate activists around the world, when we hear about what's happening inside Tibet, oftentimes we do feel really angry. We think like what China has done, what the occupation has done to our people and to our home, it can cause a lot of anger. But I think at the end of the day, what all Tibetans around the world and inside Tibet, what we really kind of want is to stand up for what we do believe in, which is the beauty of, the Tibet's environment, the beauty mm-hmm. of the communities that have been there for thousands of years, the nomads, and standing up for their rights to continue their way of life. So I think that what you said really summed up all of that really beautifully.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like colonizers, those that we're standing up against, they win if they break our spirit. Mm-hmm. They will always lose the fight if we remain strong in who we are, because that's the reason that we're in exile, right? That's the reason that my people are still surviving genocide, and why people are still fighting to overcome exile, and it's because we're unbreakable. And that is the power that people want to knock down. So remembering that people want to knock you down and they want to lock you up, literally, it's because they see in your spirit that there's something about your people that is unbreakable. So
absolutely, and that's a really beautiful way to put it. So
I'm gonna have
for my
a sip
next
of coffee.
Yeah. For my next question, I was gonna say, in your work, you often talk about the power of women and about your background, coming from a matriarchal culture. And in your opinion, what unique power or position do women have, in this fight against climate change, or also in this fight for protecting the earth?
Yeah, I mean, this one for me, shout out to all the fellas out there. You guys are doing good work. But I think women inherently, we carry life. And so it is our responsibility, if we choose so, to carry life and to care for life. So sometimes that's not even just physically within our bodies, but from my perspective and the way that I was raised, it is women who are responsible for protecting life. And so my people see the earth as female. And so if he, she is in relationship with the earth, then protecting the earth means protecting a woman. And quite often women know how to do that best. There is a nurturing nature. And for me, that has always been part of my inherent responsibility, is that I do intend to have children, and I have to hand something down, not to my children, but to my children's 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 children. And if I'm going to become a mother, then that's actually the responsibility that I was taught that I take on. It's not my baby, but my baby's 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 babies. And so that inherently makes me a protector. And I think that's a universal sort of methodology that you can find around the world, is that women take care of life. So of course we take care of the earth. She's the first life giver to all.
Awesome. Thank you. That's a beautiful answer. And so we have just about a minute and a half left on our interview time. So I have one last question, which is, do you have, any advice or, words of encouragement for young people, Indigenous folks, frontline communities who might be a little bit fearful to join the climate movement? And if you have any words of encouragement for those folks.
Yeah, standing up for yourself, even if it's just first for your own being, your own situation, your own autonomy, can be so terrifying. And then going out and raising your voice amongst others, putting yourself in a position where you can become a target, that's scary. So I would say, first acknowledge that if you're feeling apprehensive, that's real. But then immediately know that we're here, we're a community. And so just as alone as you feel when you don't have your voice, when you find your voice, you step inside a circle of people who will amplify it and hold you accountable for your voice, but also help you to lift it up. So I would say that you're always going to be struggling more if you're holding back what you